Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to 4Strategy Gaming, casting another game for you today between the Little One and WhiteRa. Now, we looked at a game between the Little One and WhiteRa yesterday. It was a Protoss versus Protoss, but today, the Little One is playing as Terran. Now, I get a lot of positive feedback from that game. People apparently love to watch games with the Little One in it. I hope they love to watch games with WhiteRa in it too, because he is equally as an impressive a player. But this is a Terran vs Protoss here in Scrap Station. I want to let you know too, before we get into the fun and excitement of the match, that there is another replay between the Little One and WhiteRa. It is 40 minutes long. It is quite a marathon worth of a game. If that's a game that you guys would be interested in me casting, let me know. I'll go ahead and try to make sure to do so. And yeah, that basically does it. So let's look at this matchup right here, though. Scrap Station. Let's talk about the map. We do have this pathway right here with these destructible rocks, making for easy and quick access to your opponent's base. But of course, first you have to destroy those. Now, that is no small feat. It does take some time, and early in the game you typically don't see people go this route just because it takes too long, and it's too easy to scout when someone's trying to push through there. It takes them about half an hour to move through, so you're going to see it ahead of time if you're doing any sort of scouting. We do have this island expansion right above both players' bases. Very rarely are we seeing professional players go for this. You do see that in ladder games every now and then, but the issue with going for an island expansion like this is it's pretty much near impossible to defend. What are you going to do? You're going to bring a dropship, a couple units over there. It's not really easy to defend over here, so because of that, you don't see a lot of players go for it. Typically, you'll see them move to the natural, moving to this third, maybe grabbing the high yield, and then lastly, pushing into this position with this destructible debris there, blocking the way. Now, we are seeing a scout move out right now for the Little One. Little One's going to be trying to scout WhiteRa's base, see exactly what's going on. He's not going to see much of anything. What he's looking for is that second building, if it's a second gateway, but there's no way in heck. Nobody 2 gates on Scrap Station. It's just impossible to pull off. The run distance is way too far at the beginning of the match. Again, with these destructible rocks blocking this pathway, it takes forever. Early rush is not the most effective thing on this map as Protoss against a Terran player. So he's going to be seeing a Cybernex core go down, and there it is. So that is to be expected. Maybe waiting around to stick for that second gas. Also, he can pretty much stay inside of WhiteRa's base up until the point that a Stalker is out. He can run away from that Zealot no problem. So until a Stalker starts coming in, he can just hang out and see exactly what's going on. Now, that is not the case for WhiteRa. Unfortunately, once his first Marine is out, WhiteRa does have to vacate the base, and you can see he didn't even actually bother scouting the Little One's base at all. So he says, screw it, I don't need scouting. I've got map hacks. No, he doesn't have map hacks, but he is not too worried about any early pressure from his opponent. So he's just going to hang tight inside of his base and use all of his drones for trying to kill this SCV. Use all his probes for trying to kill this SCV and for mining. He doesn't want to pull anyone off the line unnecessarily. Whole bunch of Marines going down here for the Little One. And what is this secondary building? It is a factory. So what does this mean? Well, it means he's not going for early pressure with Marines and Marauders. We can see no tech lab here on the barracks, so we see that factory going down. So we are seeing a fast tech build now. We may be seeing a second refinery at this point as well. We're going to see, though, he might just be going straight for the starport and maybe just going for a drop. That could be quite possible. Hellion going down, and there is that starport. So I'm going to predict, I haven't watched this game yet, but I'm going to predict a drop with Marines and Hellions. This is a pretty popular opening. I actually like to, when I play team games with my friends, I like to open up with this to drop on people, because people in team games are typically really bad. I don't know what it is, but on general, the skill in team games isn't quite as high as it is in 1v1 games. I know the reason for that is that 1v1 games are much more intense, but anyways, the point is that this looks like a Marine and Hellion drop in the making. We're going to see if that's what he ends up doing, but I'm going to call it right now. I think it's going to happen. Proxy Pylon moving down over here for WhiteRa. Going to allow him to what did I just call him? For WhiteRa, going to allow him to warp in some units over here, maybe for some early aggression. This is kind of a forward pylon. Also, it's going to allow him to flank if he gets attacked. He could warp in some units right behind the Little One and attack. So if that happens, that is something he's going to be able to do. I do have a robo going down right now. First observer on its way out. I don't think that's going to get out in time, though, for this dropship. I think the dropship's going to be in his base before that. He can make use of that. Now, 2 Hellions moving down over here, grabbing the Zelnaga Tower. Luckily, with their speediness, they can easily get away if they see any push coming. Pylon is finished, so the proxy warp-in of units is possible. Those 2 warp gates being changed right now. Those 2 gateways being changed into warp gates right now. And there's that 3rd gateway, so 3-gate robo. Immortal on its way out. First observer is en route, and it's going to catch the dropship right halfway. So now WhiteRa knows there is a drop coming. Is he responding? Yes, he is. Going to be moving his units down. Bunch of Marines, and with this dropship, this could be a real problem. Force field going down. Going to try to trap him, but Hellions moving in. Getting those Zealots down very quickly. Going to take down those sentries now as well. Losing 1 Hellion. Lifting up those Marines. Are going to continue to push right now. And this turns out to be a little bit more devastating than I think WhiteRa would like. Now, this first Immortal is in, but the problem is that Immortals are not really good against Marines. They're not really good whatsoever. In fact, the Marines pretty much going to have no problem taking them out. Going to target fire that Immortal. He's going to drop down very quickly. Also wants to watch out for that Stalker. Probe's going to be moving down to help in the fight. Marines doing a good job of microing away, staying away from the damage of the probes as much as possible. They definitely want to stay away from that Zealot, if at all possible. Going to move down the Hellion. A little bit of miss micro, though, trying to get his units back into the medevac. He ended up losing a Marine unnecessarily, and yeah, that's pretty much it for that push. But that was a pretty solid push from the little one. He did manage to do a bit of damage. Now over here, WhiteRa does know exactly what's going on. He sees more Marines being continuously pumped out. Seeing this tech lab, though, and transition into Thor, and the little one, being known for his ridiculous transitions, is moving from a Hellion Marine drop into a Thor. And yes, we did see the armory, so WhiteRa does know that that armory is there, so he knows that a Thor is very, very possible. And here we go, Thor drop on the way. Now an issue is going to be that Immortal. He wants to stay away from that Immortal because that Immortal does do quite a bit of damage to the Thor. So if he does go for that Thor drop, he just needs to be careful and make sure he doesn't take too much damage from the Immortal. Hellion moving up, finding that proxy pylon, was also checking for an expansion. There, of course, is no expansion to be seen over there. So not really too worried about that at the moment. Both players kind of hanging out on one base, and I'm waiting to see the next move. There we go. Thor drop en route right now for the little one. And let's take a look at WhiteRa's base. He's got that one Immortal there. Got some units back by his mineral line to try to help protect, and he's going to want that Immortal again to target fire that Thor because he does quite a bit of number. Now, the issue is that the little one's probably going to be dropping, doing damage, picking up. Dropping, doing damage, picking up. That's kind of the idea. You take a couple shots, and then you lift it up before anything threatening comes en route. So there we go. You see that Immortal one-shot, two-shot, doing lots and lots of damage. The medevac forced to pull away. He needs to target fire down those Stalkers and run away with the medevac. Very, very close to losing that medevac. Also very close to losing that Thor. You could see just how quickly that Immortal drops that Thor. Second Thor out right now for the little one, and probably going to be seeing some more Immortals, I would imagine, from WhiteRa. And then WhiteRa deciding to drop in return. He is returning the favor to the little one. Probably going to be dropping right in the back of the mineral line, trying to do as much damage as possible. Now, unfortunately, big problem for this Zealot drop over here is that those Marines and that Thor are going to make pretty quick work of the Zealots. But again, for WhiteRa right now, if he can drop right now, there are no units by the mineral line. So he could do a little bit of damage before he has to lift off. And he's going to have trouble getting away with that Warp Prism because of that Thor and the massive range of that. But moving out his units at the exact wrong time. Zealot drop going in the mineral line, taking out a couple of SCVs right there. I don't know exactly how many he took out, but he did take out at least a few. And now the Zealots are going to have to vacate with all of those Marines there. SCV is going to be trying to run away, and yeah, that didn't do nearly as much damage as he would have liked. Forced to pull away with that because, again, he doesn't want to be anywhere near the Thor. Checking for any observer, and that's about it. Maybe checking for some DT as well. And DT are being warped in, but where? Where are those DT being warped in? I do not know where that DT went. There's not a DT inside of his base. Someone help me find the DT. DT now being warped in right over here. So DT were warped up there, picked up and dropped. This one's going to be able to get away. No, second scan go down. Going to want to run away. Very, very close. Stay out of that scan range. And just barely within the scan range. Unfortunately, those DT didn't do as much damage, and I was confused, but the DT were warped up here and then lifted off by this Warp Prism and dropped in the little one's base. And I don't know if he's going to be able to try that again. And actually, this could be a big bit of a problem here for WhiteRa because going for those DT was a huge investment. And that's basically it. This is a huge investment, warping in those DT and getting the Dark Shrine. And as far as solid ground forces, the little one is basically outnumbering WhiteRa by quite a bit right now because that DT drop didn't do any damage, really. Another DT moving in right there, but that's not going to do much. Scan going down. DT's running away. He's not going to be able to stay out of the range, though, because of this missile turret, so that DT is going to go down. And this has just been a lot of wasted resources for WhiteRa, and that's actually a real huge problem because the little one hasn't received much in the way of damage from those attacks, and that was, again, a huge investment for WhiteRa. Now WhiteRa picking up some more Zealots, going to try to drop one more time, but this bunker with these Marines is going to nullify that without much of an issue. And here we go, push from the little one coming out right now. WhiteRa is very far behind when it comes to ground units. He's basically invested in these drops and in this tech without doing much of any damage, and these Thors going to be making quick work of the destructible rocks and be dropping them very quickly, and this push could be a little bit too much for WhiteRa to handle. I'm going to see exactly what takes place, though, but I don't know. It doesn't look like WhiteRa has much of a chance right now. Again, the problem is that he invested so much in the drop. Zealot's going down over here, doing a little bit of damage, but not nearly enough. Those Marines going to move forward from this bunker up here and going to stop that from doing much of any damage. And here's the push from the little one, pushing forward with lots of Zealots and Thors. And really great. This is too much for WhiteRa to handle. He calls good game. The little one reciprocates the favor there by saying good game as well. So good game between these two players. The big issue here again for WhiteRa was that he invested so many resources in this drop trying to get those DT in the base, but they did pretty much no damage, and because of that the little one just slowly and slowly pulled ahead in terms of army size, and this push was just way too much from the handle. So good game between these two players. Again, let me know if you want to see that 40-minute casted game between the WhiteRa and the little one. I will go ahead and do that if there is enough interest. Once again, guys, this has been Force from Force Strategy Gaming, and as always, keep watching and keep owning. Bunch of Zerglings en route right now. A bunch of Zerglings about to pop out. In fact, 20. So he should be fine. He should be able to defend against this possible push here from Loner. We don't have any stim packs coming down right now. It's about 50% of the way finished. Have another barracks right here with the tech lab going down. That's actually the initial frontal barracks moved backwards, and then moving this barracks up into the safety of his base as well. So what we're probably going to be seeing, a little bit of foresight here, I haven't watched this game, but we're probably going to see Loner push out once Stim Pack comes up. It seems like a fairly obvious assessment. Good job at stating the obvious force, but the general idea is that's what's known as a timing push. You push out when you have that advantage, and having that Stim Pack gives his units the advantage. And then so we might very well be seeing that, and we'll see what happens. Some transferation there.